The deep space around the void sector had been empty for as long as anyone could remember. No stars shined here, no planets orbited in the darkness. Most ships avoided this place because there was nothing to find. But Dr. Zephyrian Kell was not most people. He was a scientist who studied old things from dead civilizations. His ship, the Coalition research vessel Bright Dawn, moved slowly through the black space. Kell stood on the bridge looking at the scanner readings. For 3 days they had been following a strange energy signal. It was weak but steady, like a heartbeat in the darkness. "Sir, we're getting something big on the sensors," said Lieutenant Mora, the ship's scanner operator. She was a young Altarian with blue skin and large eyes. Very big. Kell moved to her station and looked at the display. His breath caught in his throat. There, floating in the void, was a ship. But calling it a ship was like calling a mountain a rock. The thing was massive beyond anything he had ever seen. "How big is it?" Kell asked. "The computer says it's over 50 kilometers long," Mora replied. "That can't be right. No one builds ships that big." But the scanners did not lie. The vessel hung in space like a sleeping giant. Its hull was dark metal that seemed to drink in their ship's lights. Strange symbols covered its surface. The design was unlike anything in the Coalition databases. Captain Vex, the Bright Dawn's commanding officer, joined them at the scanner station. He was an older Centaurian with gray fur and wise eyes. "What do you make of it, Doctor?" Kell studied the readings. The ship's energy signature was strange. It used power sources that did not match any known technology. The materials in its hull were not in any periodic table he knew. Most interesting of all, the ship was not dead. Systems were running deep inside it. "It's a precursor vessel," Kell said quietly. "It has to be." The bridge went silent. Everyone in the Coalition knew about the precursors. They were the ancient ones who had built great things long before current civilizations existed. Their technology was found throughout the galaxy, but always in pieces. "Never had anyone found a complete precursor ship, are you sure?" Captain Vex asked. "Look at the design. Look at the energy readings. This ship is old, Captain. Older than our oldest records. But it's still active." Captain Vex made his decision quickly. "Prepare a boarding party. Doctor, you'll lead the investigation team. I want to know what we're dealing with." 2 hours later, Kell found himself in a shuttle heading toward the giant ship. With him were 3 security officers and a technical specialist named Jorik. The shuttle felt tiny as it approached the massive vessel. They found an airlock that seemed designed for smaller ships like theirs. The airlock opened without resistance. Air pressure readings showed the ship had a breathable atmosphere inside. Gravity was present and working normally. Whatever this ship was, it was not dead. They entered through a corridor that stretched far in both directions. The walls were smooth and metallic. Lights came on as they walked, responding to their presence. The technology was working perfectly after unknown years in space. "The air is clean," Jorik reported, checking his instruments. "Oxygen levels are normal. Temperature is comfortable. This ship is maintaining itself." They walked deeper into the vessel. The corridors were built for beings about their size, perhaps a little taller. Everything was clean and well maintained. It felt like the crew had just stepped out for a moment. After an hour of walking, they found something that made them all stop. A large viewing window showed a vast chamber filled with rows of white pods. Each pod was the size of a small room. There were thousands of them stretching into the distance. "What are those?" asked one of the security officers. Kell pressed his face to the window. Inside the pods he could see shapes. Tall figures lying still in some kind of sleep. "Stasis chambers," he whispered. "They're stasis chambers." The beings inside were unlike any species in the Coalition. They had pale skin and hair on their heads. Their features were smooth and symmetrical. They looked peaceful in their endless sleep. "How many are there?" Jorik asked. "Thousands," Kell replied. "Maybe tens of thousands." They found an entrance to the chamber. As soon as they stepped inside, lights began to activate throughout the massive space. Computer displays came to life. The ship's systems were waking up. Kell approached one of the pods and looked at the sleeping figure inside. The being was tall and looked strong despite its peaceful appearance. There was something about its face that suggested intelligence and determination. "Doctor," Jorik called from a computer terminal, "I'm reading massive system activation throughout the ship. Something is responding to our presence." Kell felt a chill run down his spine. They had awakened something that had been sleeping for a very long time. He looked around the chamber at the thousands of pods. Each one contained a being from a species that might be older than their entire civilization. We need to report this to the Coalition immediately, Kel said. This is the greatest discovery in galactic history. But even as he spoke, he noticed changes in the nearest pods. The beings inside seemed to be stirring. Their peaceful sleep was becoming restless. Whatever they had triggered, it was bringing these ancient beings back to life. Kel realized they were about to meet the precursors face to face. The question was whether these ancient beings would be friends or enemies when they woke up. The ship around them hummed with increasing power, as if a sleeping giant was beginning to open its eyes. In the depths of the ship, systems that had waited for thousands of years began their revival sequences. The time of sleeping was ending. The time of awakening had begun. Captain Sarah Chen felt cold, very cold. Her body ached as feeling slowly returned to her limbs. She tried to open her eyes, but the light was too bright. Somewhere nearby, she could hear voices speaking in languages she did not recognize. The stasis chamber around her hissed as it opened completely. Warm air flowed over her skin. She sat up slowly, her muscles weak from the long sleep. How long had she been asleep? She remembered entering the pod as Earth burned behind them. The enemy had come from the stars and humanity's only choice was to run. Easy now, said a gentle voice. You have been sleeping for a very long time. Sarah's vision cleared. Standing nearby was a being unlike anything she had ever seen. It had blue skin and large kind eyes. It wore robes that seemed to shimmer in the light. Behind it stood other strange beings, all watching her with curiosity. Who are you? Sarah asked. Her voice was rough from disuse. I am Dr. Zephyrian Kell of the Galactic Coalition, the blue-skinned being replied. We found your ship. We did not know anyone was alive inside it. Sarah looked around. She was still in the stasis chamber aboard the Prometheus. But now it was filled with aliens. The ship's emergency lights were on, bathing everything in a red glow. Through the chamber windows, she could see other ships outside. Ships with designs she did not recognize. How long? She asked. Dr. Kell looked uncomfortable. According to our measurements, your ship has been drifting for approximately 3,000 years. The words hit Sarah like a physical blow. 3,000 years. Everyone she had ever known was dead. Earth itself might be gone. She closed her eyes and tried to process the information. Your species, Dr. Kell continued carefully. We have no records of your people. What do you call yourselves? Human, Sarah replied. We are human. From Earth, Sol system. Dr. Kell exchanged glances with his companions. We have never heard of Earth or the Sol system. You are completely unknown to us. Other stasis pods were opening throughout the chamber. Sarah's crew was waking up. She could hear their confused voices as they found themselves surrounded by aliens. Some of her people sounded frightened. Others sounded angry. I need to speak with my crew, Sarah said. She tried to stand but stumbled. Dr. Kell helped steady her. Of course. But first you should know that we are not alone out here. There are many ships around your vessel. Representatives from different worlds have come to see you. Sarah looked through the chamber windows again. She could see at least a dozen ships of various sizes and designs. All of them were focused on the Prometheus. Why? She asked. Because, Dr. Kell said quietly, you are precursors. Your technology, your ship, everything about you is older than our oldest civilizations. We have been finding pieces of precursor technology for centuries, but we never found living precursors before. Sarah felt confused. Precursors? We're not ancient beings. We're just people trying to survive. Dr. Kell looked puzzled. But your ship, it uses technology we do not understand. The materials in your hull are beyond our science. You must be far more advanced than us. Before Sarah could respond, her second-in-command Commander Torres approached. He had been awakened and briefed by other members of the alien team. His face was grim. Captain, Torres said, we need to talk, privately. Sarah nodded to Dr. Kell. Give us a moment, please. The aliens moved away, though they continued to watch with interest. Torres spoke quietly to Sarah. Captain, I've been talking to these aliens. They call themselves the Galactic Coalition. They say they've been finding human ships for centuries, but they've all been dead hulks. They've been stripping them for technology. Sarah felt anger rise in her chest. They've been looting our ships? It gets worse. There's another group out there called the Hegemony. They control the area where Earth used to be. The Coalition is afraid of them. Apparently, the Hegemony destroys any precursor sites they find to keep their technology advantage. Sarah closed her eyes. Not only had humanity been sleeping for 3,000 years, But their legacy was being stolen and destroyed by aliens who saw them as nothing more than sources of advanced technology. "How many of our people are awake?" she asked. "About 50 so far. The ship's AI is reviving people slowly to avoid overwhelming our systems. But Captain, the crew is scared. They want to know what happened to Earth." Sarah looked around the chamber. Her people were gathering in small groups, talking quietly among themselves. They looked lost and frightened. She was their captain, and they needed her to be strong. "What about the ship?" she asked. "Atlas is running full diagnostics. All systems are coming online normally. We're in better shape than we have any right to be after 3,000 years. Sarah nodded. Atlas was the Prometheus's artificial intelligence. If it was functioning, they had options. Dr. Kell approached again. "Captain Chen, I hope you will forgive the intrusion, but there are others who wish to meet you. Representatives from the Coalition worlds. They have traveled far to see living precursors." "We're not precursors," Sarah said firmly. "We're humans, and I want to know what happened to our other ships. Dr. Kell said you found human vessels before." Dr. Kell looked uncomfortable again. "Yes, we have found many ships with similar technology, but they were all empty, dead. We thought they were abandoned." "They weren't abandoned," Sarah said. "They were colony ships, refugee ships, just like this one. Our people were running from an enemy that was destroying our worlds." She could see the impact of her words on the aliens. They had been treating human ships like archaeological sites, never realizing they contained the sleeping survivors of a great tragedy. "We will help you learn what happened to your people," Dr. Kell promised. "The Coalition values all life. We will do whatever we can to assist you." But even as he spoke, alarms began to sound throughout the ship. Sarah looked up as Atlas's voice filled the chamber. "Captain Chen, we have multiple ships approaching at high speed. They are broadcasting hegemony identification codes. Estimated time to arrival, 6 hours." Sarah felt a chill that had nothing to do with the stasis chamber. The hegemony was coming. The aliens who controlled Earth's space and destroyed precursor sites were on their way. She looked at Dr. Kell and saw fear in his large eyes. Whatever the hegemony was, even the Coalition was afraid of them. "Doctor," Sarah said quietly, "I think we're all about to have a very serious problem." The hegemony fleet dropped out of hyperspace like a pack of hungry wolves. War Master Krex Vorthak stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Iron Fang, and surveyed the scene before him. Coalition ships scattered like frightened birds, but they did not run far. They could not abandon their precious discovery. "What do we have, Commander?" Vorthak asked his second-in-command. 12 Coalition vessels, sir. Mostly science ships and escorts. Nothing that can threaten us. And the artifact? Sir, it's massive. Vorthak looked at the giant ship floating in space. Even by hegemony standards, it was huge. His own flagship was considered large, but this ancient vessel dwarfed it completely. The dark metal hull seemed to absorb light, making it look like a hole in space itself. "Any response from the Coalition?" he asked. "Ambassador Threnx is requesting to speak with you, sir." Vorthak smiled, showing sharp teeth. The Coalition was weak. They preferred talking to fighting, which made them easy prey. "Put him through." The main screen flickered to life, showing the pale, worried face of Ambassador Threnx. The Altarian looked even more nervous than usual. "War Master Vorthak," Threnx began. "This is a peaceful archaeological mission. We are not in disputed territory." "Everything is disputed territory if I say it is," Vorthak replied. "You have found a precursor artifact. By hegemony law, all precursor technology belongs to us. But sir, this is different. There are living beings aboard that ship. Actual precursors. They have awakened from some kind of stasis." Vorthak's eyes widened. Living precursors? If that was true, it changed everything. The hegemony's power came from controlling ancient technology. If there were beings who actually understood that technology, they could threaten everything the hegemony had built. "Even better," Vorthak said. "Living specimens will be more valuable than dead artifacts. You will surrender them to us immediately." "I cannot do that," Threnx replied. "They are sentient beings. The Coalition does not trade in slaves." "Then you will die with them," Vorthak said simply, and cut the transmission. He turned to his weapons officer. "Target their escort ships first. Show them we mean business." On the Prometheus, Captain Sarah Chen watched the hegemony fleet through the bridge's main viewer. She had seen warships before, but these were different. They were built for intimidation as much as battle. Sharp angles and weapon spikes covered their hulls. They looked like they were designed to cause fear. Atlas, what can you tell me about those ships? She asked. The ship's AI responded immediately. Analyzing, Captain. The vessels appear to use fusion-based power systems with particle beam weapons. Their technology level is approximately equivalent to Earth's military circa 2157. Sarah blinked in surprise. They're using technology that's older than our oldest systems? Correct, Captain. However, they appear to have much larger fleets and industrial capacity. Dr. Kell stood nearby looking terrified. Captain Chen, you must understand. The hegemony is not reasonable. They take what they want and destroy what they cannot use. They have enslaved dozens of species. What about the coalition? Sarah asked. Will they fight? Dr. Kell shook his head sadly. The coalition values peace above all else. Our ships are designed for exploration and research, not war. We have not fought a real battle in over 200 years. Sarah felt sick. The coalition was peaceful and weak. The hegemony was strong and evil, and humanity had awakened in the middle of a galaxy where might made right. How many of our people are awake now? She asked Commander Torres. About 200, Captain. Atlas says it can have the full crew revived in 12 hours. We may not have 12 hours. Through the viewer, they watched as hegemony ships moved into attack positions around the coalition fleet. The peaceful aliens tried to negotiate, but Sarah could see it was hopeless. The hegemony had not come here to talk. Captain, Atlas said, I am detecting weapons charging on the hegemony vessels. They appear to be preparing to fire on the coalition ships. Sarah made a decision that would change everything. Atlas, begin full crew revival. All departments. Bring the ship to full combat status, Captain. Torres looked surprised. Are we going to fight them? I don't know yet. But if we're going to die as humans, not as specimens in some alien laboratory. Dr. Kell overheard and looked shocked. Captain Chen, surely you cannot fight an entire hegemony fleet with one ship. Sarah looked at him seriously. Doctor, you called us precursors. You said our technology was beyond your understanding. Maybe it's time you found out why. On the Iron Fang, War Master Vorthak watched as the coalition ships tried to form a defensive line between his fleet and the ancient vessel. It was pathetic. Their shields were weak, their weapons outdated. This would be over quickly. Begin the attack, he ordered. Disable their ships, but try to avoid destroying them completely. I want prisoners to question about the precursors. The first hegemony volley tore into a coalition escort ship. Its shields collapsed immediately, and explosions rippled across its hull. The ship spun out of control, venting atmosphere and debris. Target the medical frigate next, Vorthak commanded. Show them that mercy is weakness. But as his ships prepared to fire again, something impossible happened. The ancient vessel began to change. Sarah stood on the bridge of the Prometheus and watched a coalition medical ship take fire. She could see escape pods launching as the ship died. Those pods contained innocent people who had done nothing wrong except try to help her crew. The moment she saw the medical ship explode, her decision was made. Atlas. Emergency battle stations. Full weapons authorization. Code Red 7. Confirmed, Captain. Battle systems coming online. Throughout the ship, systems that had slept for 3,000 years awakened with terrible purpose. Weapon bays that had been hidden opened along the hull. Power flowed to cannons that could crack planets. The Prometheus revealed its true nature. It was not just a colony ship. It was humanity's greatest warship, designed to carry their civilization to safety and defend it from any threat. Sir, the hegemony sensor officer called out in alarm. The precursor ship is powering weapons. Energy readings are... Sir, these readings can't be right. Vorthak turned to look at the massive vessel. Along its hull, ports were opening to reveal weapon systems beyond anything he had ever seen. The ship's entire structure was shifting and reconfiguring. What had seemed like a peaceful colony ship was transforming into something else entirely. What is that thing? He whispered. On the Prometheus, Captain Sarah Chen opened a channel to all ships in the area. When she spoke, her voice was calm but carried the weight of 3,000 years of human determination. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth starship Prometheus. To the coalition vessels, move clear of the combat zone. To the hegemony fleet. You have fired on medical vessels and threatened innocent civilians. That ends now. War Master Vorthak laughed despite his growing unease. One ship against my entire fleet? You are brave, precursor, but you are outnumbered 20-1. Sarah's response was simple and terrible. War Master, you're not fighting one ship. You're fighting 3,000 years of human engineering. You're fighting a species that survived by becoming very, very good at war. The Prometheus opened fire, and the galaxy learned what human weapons could do. The first human weapons burst was like watching lightning tear apart the darkness. Streams of pure energy lanced out from the Prometheus and struck 3 hegemony warships simultaneously. The alien shields, which had easily stopped coalition weapons, simply vanished. The energy beams cut through the ship's hulls like they were made of paper. 3 hegemony vessels exploded in brilliant fireballs before War Master Vorthak could even give orders to return fire. What just happened? He screamed at his sensor officer. Sir, they're weapons. They're using some kind of focused particle beam technology. Our shields couldn't even slow it down. The energy output is beyond anything in our databases. Vorthak stared at the ancient ship in growing horror. The massive vessel was still changing shape. Sections of its hull were sliding apart to reveal more weapon emplacements. What had looked like cargo holds were actually weapons bays larger than his entire ship. All ships concentrate fire on that vessel, he ordered. Destroy it before it can fire again. The remaining hegemony ships opened fire together. Dozens of particle beams and plasma missiles streaked toward the Prometheus. The coalition ships watched in terror, expecting to see the ancient vessel destroyed. Instead, they saw something impossible. The human ship's shields absorbed every shot without even flickering. The massive vessel continued its transformation, completely ignoring the weapons fire striking its hull. On the bridge of the Prometheus, Captain Sarah Chen watched the enemy weapons' impacts with mild interest. Atlas shield status? Shields holding at 97%, Captain. Enemy weapons are having minimal effect. Their technology level? She asked. Confirmed at early 22nd century equivalent. Their weapons cannot penetrate our defensive systems. Sarah nodded. It was what she had expected. The Prometheus had been built during humanity's golden age of technology, designed to survive anything the galaxy could throw at it. These aliens were using weapons that were centuries out of date by human standards. Return fire, she ordered. Target their weapon systems. Disable them, but try to avoid unnecessary casualties. Aye, Captain. The human ship's response was swift and precise. Instead of the devastating beams that had destroyed the first 3 ships, the Prometheus fired smaller, more controlled bursts. Each shot struck exactly where it was aimed, destroying weapon emplacements and engine systems while leaving the ship's life support intact. In 30 seconds, half of the hegemony fleet was crippled and drifting powerless. War Master Vorthak could not believe what he was seeing. His mighty fleet, which had conquered dozens of worlds, was being torn apart by a single enemy vessel. Worse, the humans were clearly holding back. They could have destroyed every ship but chose not to. Sir, his communications officer called out, we're receiving a transmission from the precursor ship. Put it through, Vorthak said. Captain Chen's face appeared on the screen. She looked calm and professional, like this was just another day at work. War Master Vorthak, your fleet is defeated. Surrender now and we will allow your surviving ships to withdraw. Never, Vorthak snarled. The hegemony does not surrender to anyone. Then you're about to learn why that's a mistake, Sarah replied. The transmission cut out. On the Prometheus, Sarah turned to her weapons officer, Lieutenant Park. Lieutenant, show them what our main guns can do. Target the asteroid at bearing 270. Everyone on the bridge looked toward the asteroid she had indicated. It was massive, perhaps 10 kilometers across. Nothing in space except a planet could threaten such a large rock. Main guns locked on target, Captain, Park reported. Fire. The Prometheus's main weapons were designed for planetary defense. They could crack the surface of a world or vaporize incoming asteroids. When they fired, space itself seemed to bend around the energy beam. The asteroid simply ceased to exist. One moment it was there, a solid chunk of rock and metal. The next moment, there was nothing but expanding gas and debris. Across both fleets, every sensor operator stared at their readings in disbelief. The power required to completely destroy an asteroid of that size was beyond their comprehension. Your move, War Master, Sarah said, opening the channel again. Vorthak's face had gone pale. He had built his career on fear and intimidation, but now he was facing something that could not be intimidated, something that made his greatest weapons look like toys. You cannot be real, he whispered. No one has technology like this. We do, Sarah replied simply. Humanity learned to build things that last because we had to. We learned to fight because the universe kept trying to kill us. And we learned to survive because giving up was never an option. Around the battlefield, the Coalition ships watched in amazement. Dr. Kell stood on the bridge of the bright dawn with tears in his large eyes. He was witnessing the awakening of beings that were legends made real. "Sir," his sensor officer reported, "the human ship is launching smaller craft." Through the viewports, they could see dozens of sleek fighters launching from the Prometheus. The small ships moved with impossible precision, their flight patterns too perfect for any living pilot. Sarah had ordered the launch of her AI-controlled fighter wings. Each fighter was piloted by an artificial intelligence that had learned combat from humanity's greatest pilots. They moved through space like a school of predatory fish, beautiful and deadly. The fighters did not attack. Instead, they formed a protective screen around the damaged Coalition vessels, helping with rescue operations and medical evacuations. It was a message that could not be misunderstood. Humanity protected those who could not protect themselves. War Master Vorthak watched his empire's reputation crumble in real time. Stories of this defeat would spread across the galaxy. Everyone would know that the mighty hegemony had been crushed by a single enemy ship. But worse than the military defeat was what he saw in the human captain's eyes. There was no hatred there, no anger. Only a cold professional determination that terrified him more than any threat could have. "War Master," Captain Chen said, "I'm going to give you one last chance. Order your surviving ships to withdraw and I'll let them go. Continue this fight and I'll be forced to destroy them all." Vorthak looked around his bridge. Half his instruments were dead. His weapons were gone. His shields were failing. His crew looked at him with fear and uncertainty. He had two choices: surrender his pride and save his people, or maintain his reputation and watch them all die. "All ships," he said quietly, "withdraw to minimum safe distance." As the hegemony fleet limped away, Sarah Chen stood on her bridge and looked out at the stars. The galaxy had changed today. Humanity was no longer hiding in the depths of space. They had announced their presence in a way that no one could ignore. But this was only the beginning. Somewhere out there were other human ships, other sleeping crews waiting to be awakened. The hegemony would be back with more ships and better weapons. The Coalition would want answers about humanity's capabilities. Sarah had awakened her people into a galaxy at war. Now she had to decide what humanity's role would be in the conflicts to come. Would they be conquerors like the hegemony? Peaceful explorers like the Coalition? Or something entirely different? The answer would shape the future of every species in the galaxy. And it all started with one human captain making one simple choice. No one would hurt innocent people while she had the power to stop them. The sleeping giant had awakened, and the galaxy would never be the same. 3 days after the battle, the space around the Prometheus looked very different. The hegemony fleet was gone, limping back to their territory with tales of defeat. But the Coalition ships had multiplied. Representatives from dozens of worlds had come to see the humans who had appeared from legend. Captain Sarah Chen stood in the main conference room of her ship, looking at a table full of alien dignitaries. Each one represented a different species, a different world, a different set of hopes and fears about humanity's return to the galaxy. Ambassador Thranks spoke first. He had recovered from his terror during the battle and now looked at Sarah with something approaching worship. "Captain Chen, the Coalition Council has asked me to formally welcome humanity back to the galactic community. We offer you full membership in our organization." Sarah studied the alien diplomat carefully. "What does that membership involve?" "Shared technology, mutual defense agreements, trade partnerships," Thranks explained. "The Coalition believes in cooperation between species. And what do you want from us in return?" Thranks hesitated. Sarah could see the fear in his eyes, the same fear she had seen in all the aliens who had witnessed the battle. They wanted humanity's protection, but they were terrified of humanity's power. "Your military capabilities would be valuable," Thranks admitted. "The hegemony has been expanding for centuries. Many peaceful worlds have fallen to their fleets. With your help, we could finally stand against them." Sarah looked around the table at the other representatives. They all had the same expression, hope mixed with terror. They wanted humans to save them, but they were afraid of what humans might demand in return. "Dr. Kell," Sarah said, turning to the archaeologist who had discovered her ship, "tell me about the other human vessels you've found." Dr. Kell pulled out a datapad and displayed a star map. Red dots showed the locations where human ships had been discovered over the centuries. There were dozens of them scattered across the galaxy. Most were found in deep space, drifting without power, he explained. We assumed they were derelicts, so we salvaged what we could. You stripped them for technology, Sarah said flatly. Yes, Dr. Kell admitted, looking ashamed. We didn't know there were people inside. We thought they were abandoned. Sarah felt a cold anger building in her chest. Her people had been sleeping for 3,000 years, waiting for someone to wake them up. Instead, aliens had been looting their ships like graves. How many ships? She asked. 47 confirmed discoveries. But Captain, we've already sent rescue teams to the ones we can reach. If there are more of your people alive, we'll find them. Sarah nodded slowly. 47 ships meant potentially millions of humans still sleeping in the void. Her people were scattered across the galaxy like seeds waiting to grow. Atlas, she said. Begin broadcasting on all human emergency frequencies. Maximum power. The ship's AI responded immediately. Transmission begun, Captain. Broadcasting standard Earth Fleet awakening protocols. Around the table, the alien representatives looked confused. What are you doing? Asked a reptilian delegate from the Saurian Republic. I'm waking up my people, Sarah replied. As if on cue, Lieutenant Park's voice came over the intercom. Captain, we're receiving responses to our transmission. Multiple ships are acknowledging receipt and beginning revival procedures. Sarah smiled for the first time since waking up. How many? 37 ships so far, Captain. More coming online every hour. The aliens around the table looked stunned. Ambassador Thrank spoke in a shaky voice. 37 ships? Like this one? Some larger, some smaller, Sarah said casually. The Prometheus was one of our heavy assault carriers, but we also built exploration vessels, colony ships, research platforms, and mobile shipyards. A small alien with insect-like features raised her hand nervously. Captain Chen, when you say heavy assault carrier, what exactly does that mean? Sarah looked at her seriously. It means the Prometheus was designed to carry an invasion force capable of conquering entire star systems. We built it during the worst period of Earth's final war. The silence around the table was deafening. These aliens had thought they were dealing with one impossible ship. Now they were learning that humanity had built dozens of such vessels. But Captain, Dr. Kell said carefully, you're peaceful, aren't you? You protected our ships during the battle. You didn't destroy the hegemony fleet when you could have. Sarah nodded. Humanity learned to be very good at war because we had to. But we also learned that war should be the last option, not the first. We fought to survive, not to conquer. She stood up and walked to the large viewport that showed the stars beyond. 3,000 years ago, Earth was attacked by an enemy that wanted to wipe us out completely. We didn't start that war, but we ended it. Then we left, hoping to find a peaceful place in the galaxy where we could build new homes. And now? Asked Ambassador Thranks. Now we find a galaxy where the strong prey on the weak, where slavers like the hegemony expand unchecked, where peaceful people live in fear. Sarah turned back to face the delegates. That's not the galaxy we wanted to find. What will you do? Asked the reptilian delegate. Sarah was quiet for a long moment. Through the viewport, she could see coalition ships moving among the stars. Peaceful vessels designed for exploration and trade, not war. They were beautiful in their innocence, but that innocence made them vulnerable. We'll do what we've always done, she said finally. We'll protect those who can't protect themselves. We'll build homes for our people. And we'll make sure that bullies like the hegemony understand that their days of easy conquest are over. The alien delegates exchanged glances. Some looked relieved. Others looked worried. All of them understood that the galaxy's balance of power had just shifted dramatically. However, Sarah continued, we won't be anyone's weapons. We won't fight your wars for you. If you want humanity's protection, you'll have to earn it by standing up for the values we believe in. Freedom, justice, and the right of all sapient beings to live in peace. Ambassador Thranks leaned forward. And if the hegemony returns with a larger fleet? Sarah smiled. And there was something in that smile that made every alien in the room remember that humans were predators. Then they'll learn why it was a mistake to attack a medical ship in front of us. As if summoned by her words, Atlas's voice filled the room. Captain, long-range sensors are detecting multiple hyperspace signatures. 39 human vessels have just entered the system. Through the viewport, new ships began to appear. Each one was different in design, but all carried the unmistakable look of human engineering. Sleek, efficient, and deadly, the fleet that had once carried humanity's survivors into exile was reuniting. Captain Sarah Chen looked out at her returning people and made a silent promise. Never again would humanity run from bullies. Never again would they hide in the darkness while innocents suffered. The sleeping giants had awakened, and they had found a galaxy that needed them. Whether that galaxy wanted them or not, humanity was home to stay. Dr. Kell, Sarah said quietly, I think you're about to get a much better understanding of what precursor technology can really do. The age of humanity's exile was over. The age of their return had begun. And for the first time in 3,000 years, the innocent had protectors who would never give up, never surrender, and never let evil go unopposed. The galaxy would learn to live with that reality, or it would learn why crossing humanity was the last mistake anyone ever made.